Got the fit wells out again, this time in the snow. They're not the snow models. We cut some fat wood off here several weeks ago. You can see it's full of snow now on there, and there's still some more fat wood stubs up here. We might try and take them, but I don't want to get under that too quickly. But yeah, anyway, these fit wells, the big wall boots, they're not the winter ones. These are the summer ones. They've got the event lining, but they're still good. They're still waterproof, resistant. They're, you know, getting on now. Still got lots of good wear on them. You see that there? And looky here, we've got a bit of a wild animal track up here. Yeah, so we're going to follow this to a bit of a nice place in the forest. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, g'day, Bush Camping Tools here. As you can see, we're in the spot actually that we were only a couple of weeks ago. It snowed a little bit several days ago, so I'm using what I showed you in one of the previous videos about hanging up a bag in a tree on the with a carabiner. But inside the bag I've also got my stuff in one of these waterproof bags, which are great. This brand happens to be Hypergear. It was gifted to me by my sister, but they're really good because you can put things in there and you don't have to worry about getting things wet in the snow and take things out. But what I want to do today is I just want to show you a couple of things. We've got this knife there. We've got this knife. We'll have a good look at them in a minute. And we have a folder. So let's just have a look here at that. Okay, so we have a folder, and I've got a couple of fixed blades here. Just take them out. You know, no particular choice, but some fixed blades, and we'll just get rid of that snow off there. And so what I want to talk about here is a bit of a myth, and it's another myth about, you know, folders are not reliable compared to a fixed blade. That's just not true. Well, let me talk about what can fail. Let's ignore the blade breaking, because the blade is not going to break in any knife, whether it's a fixed blade or a folder, unless excessive force and really stupidity is done. I don't know anybody that's really broken a blade unless they've been doing something silly. So what can fail in these two knives, for example? What is possible to fail with the exception of the blade? Well, the only thing that can fail is screws can come out of the handle, and if the screws come out, then this scales would come off and this thing would fall apart. But again, I don't know anybody that's ever had any screws come undone with a folder and has lost it or lost parts of it. So if you're pulling apart, if you're one of these people that like to pull their folders apart, and many people like pulling their folders apart and making micro adjustments, well, then you do risk a high chance of losing screws, because unless you return those bolts to their proper positions and use the correct Loctite to secure them against vibration, then you stand a high chance of losing those things. So maybe you've had that done and you think that folders are not as reliable as fixed blades, but here I'm going to tell you there's just as much chance of these coming undone as there are these coming undone, and therefore the reliability is no greater for this than this. Under abuse, yes, but if you're going to abuse you see, we're out here now. If I start abusing my knife out here, I'm going to run into trouble out here. So what knife is going to have even more reliability than these kinds of knives out in the wild? And that's a knife with an injection molded handle, because or if the handle is actually riveted on and it cannot come off unless you break it. Now, a knife like out here, this is quite comfortable to hold with no gloves on. It's below zero, but there's no exposed tang for me to have my hand frozen to the knife on here, whereas this has an exposed tang on here, and it feels cold in the hand. Absolutely, it feels cold. This feels less cold because there's no real tang exposed. It's a plastic handle. There is a metal clip on here, of course. At really cold temperatures, that might freeze to your hand. It's possible. With this, there's no chance that is going to happen, because that's just a rubber grip on there. And also, there is nothing to fail on such a grip. It cannot, there's no bolts or anything, or even rivets to fail to come off. So if we're talking about truly fail-proof knives, you'd have to look at knives with injection molded handles. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that, because I think there's a lot out there on people saying that folders are not adequate for for taking out into the wilds, and parts on them can fail. But I would argue and say that if you buy a reliable folder, they're not going to come apart on there. The caveat being, as I said, if you're one of these people that are like pulling apart the folder and you don't put things back together, and a lot of care is taken when manufacturers make quality folders to put them together properly so they won't come apart. But I have no problems in taking such a folder like this out here, and I'm not worried about losing the screws out of it. I've never, I've had one of these other ones like this too for a long time. No screws have ever come loose on it. Of course, I don't pull these things apart. I do maintain them and don't pull them apart. But yeah, and I'd say it's no, in terms of reliability, it is no less reliable than a good quality fixed blade. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay, bush camping tools here. Thanks for watching.